through distributive property. Now, before you do this video, you might want to watch the video that I did on simplifying, but it was the grouping video, okay? Where we grouped together like terms by adding and subtracting. In that video, I talked a little bit about how simplifying has its steps, if you will. So the first step in simplifying would be to see if you can multiply or divide. After you do that, then you would go to the addition and subtraction, which would be the grouping. So in the last video, we started off with the addition and subtraction. We grouped together like terms. Okay, so go back to that video if you don't know what a like term is and watch that, okay? So in this video, we're going to be talking more about that first step in simplifying, which is the multiplying, dividing. Even though we're not going to really divide in this one, we're just talking about the distributive property. And it is a form, that's what I have here, a form of multiplication. The other video you might want to watch before doing this one is one where I did talk about multiplying and dividing variables that have exponents. So that might help you a little bit with what we're going to be doing here. Okay? So remember that we simplify when we're missing information. Kind of sounds weird, right? If I had all the information, what I mean by missing information, I'm talking about variables. So if I have variables and operations like multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, but I have these variables, I can't get to the final answer until I know what those letters are or what those variables are. But what I can do is I can simplify them. I can group them together, I can multiply, I can show that they're multiplied. I just can't get to a final answer like 10, okay? Because I'm still going to be missing, I'm still going to have these variables. Remember that a variable is a letter that takes place of an unknown number? So, that's about it, I guess, with that little introduction there. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, I have some things that we're going to be talking about today. Distributive property is basically, it's a form of multiplication. We're going to be multiplying. Distributive property is multiplication. That's all it is. However, it's not just multiplying numbers. In fact, we're multiplying three different things. We're going to be multiplying signs, numbers, and their variables. Okay? So I would just suggest taking it step by step. Just do the signs first, do the numbers next, do the variables last, until you get to a point where you're comfortable. Then you'll start visualizing it in different ways, and you'll be able to take some shortcuts and that kind of thing. But at first, this is the first time you've done it, just take your time. Just take your time. Don't get too crazy. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be doing a few examples together, and I'll put a couple up for you guys to try by yourself, like I usually try and do. So, alright, let's go ahead and get started with the first example today. And let's put -2 times the quantity of of x minus 3y. Okay? So this is what I was talking about when I said there's missing information. I don't know what x is and I don't know what y is. So there's missing information. And that's what I mean. It's kind of hard to describe when I don't have an example in front of me. Okay, so first I would try to see if I can multiply or divide. Well, there's no division, but there is a multiplication. And the way I would visualize this, or I would ask that you begin to visualize this, is basically there's two numbers here. We have this number outside, or this term that is outside the parentheses, the -2. And then we have this term that is inside the parentheses. Now this is called a polynomial, just because it's, there's more than one nomial. Poly means many, nomial means basically term. So many terms. And this one is actually a binomial because there's two terms, but I'm not too worried about the definitions of what polynomial and binomial and mononomial and trinomial. Not too worried about those things. What I really want you guys to see is we have a number outside the parentheses that's multiplied by the number that's inside the parentheses. It's kind of like something like this. Right? -2 times 3. It's number outside parentheses multiplied by the number inside the parentheses. However, I can't just do like 2 times 3 and say 6, or -6 I think is what it would have been. I can't do that because I'm missing information. So what I have to do is what's called the distributive property. Now, distributive property means that we're going to multiply the term that's outside the parentheses by each term that's inside the parentheses. And I already said that this is called a binomial because, or a polynomial binomial because there's two terms. So in other words, this term that's outside, the minus 2 is going to have to multiply by this one, by the x, and then the minus 2 is going to have to multiply by the minus 3y. Okay? So what we usually see in math books and stuff, and in my class, I use these little arrows so that we know that we're going to multiply this times this, and then this times that, and then see what we have at the end. Okay? So let's do it step by step. Remember that I said on what I had on the board earlier, we're going to be multiplying three things: sign, number, and variable. Okay? So let's start off with the signs. This one is a negative, minus 2. It's a minus. What sign does the x have? Remember that if a number or a term doesn't have a sign immediately to its left, then it is automatically a positive term. Okay? So let's do that. Let's multiply the minus times the positive. We get a negative. So negative times positive is a negative. And when we multiply, well, I said sign, number, and letter. So what number would be in front of the x? It's kind of hard to see it. It's kind of hard to visualize this all the time, but it's basically a 1. All right. In algebra, they never put the 1. If it's just a 1x, they just put x. And the reason is because if I ask you how many x's do you see here, you'll say 1. So then why do we have to put the number if you can already see that it's 1x? So okay, let's start again. Let's try this again. So we do the signs. Negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, so now 2 times 1 is 2. And again, that is because that 1 is kind of invisible because they don't put that when it's just an x by itself. A variable by itself, they never put the number 1. And we have to automatically understand that there is this invisible 1 that's there. So, just to recap, I know I'm repeating myself. It's okay. Negative times positive is a negative. 2 times 1 is 2. No letter, no variable times a variable times x. I have to show that the 2 is being multiplied by the x. So it's just minus 2x. Okay? Now, let's do the next one. Same thing again. Sign, number, variable. So the signs are negative times a negative. That's a positive. Okay? And I have some students that have this tendency where they just want to bring down the sign that's there. And that's not how you do it. You're actually multiplying the signs. So, because remember, it's this number times this entire number. It's sign, number, and letter. Okay? So anyway, negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 3, doing the numbers now. 2 times 3 is 6. And 2 doesn't have a letter or a variable. But the 3 does, and I have to show that the 3 is multiplied by the y, so when I do the numbers, I got to show that that y is still there, and it's still being multiplied. I didn't change that fact. 3 is multiplied to the y, and so I have to show that the y is still multiplied to the term, okay? And normally I would check to see if these are like terms, which they are not. This has an x, this has a y, they're totally different. It's like my example of the pile of change, right? Those are quarters, those are nickels, I'm going to keep them separate. Okay, so quarters, nickels, they stay separate. All right, and that would be basically it. That's all I can do, okay, because I don't know the value of x and I don't know the value of y. So that's it. As far as simplifying goes, that's all I can do. We took it from 3 terms, a 2, an x, and a 3y, well, minus 2, positive x, and a minus 3y. 3 terms, and we simplified it to 2 terms. Okay? Basically what we're saying is all of this is the same as this. Okay? It's just a little bit more simplified. Let's do another one. Alright. Let's see here. Let's do 3x times the quantity of minus 4x minus 5x squared. Okay, so this is a little bit different because I have an exponent with the variable. And this is why we need to know how to multiply variables with exponents. Make sure you check out that video. But basically I have three terms, and looking at it even broader from a more general standpoint, I have a number multiplied by another number. This is considered one number because it's all inside the parentheses. However, again, I don't know what x is, so I can't do anything with the x's. Okay? I mean, I don't know what that value is, so I can't simplify this down to like a single answer, like I said earlier, like 10 or 5 or something like that. But what I can do is I can simplify, and I can use the distributive property to simplify this expression. So let's go ahead and start. Again, remember we're doing the three things. We're simplifying sign, number, and variable. And I would just say take it like that, one step at a time, so you don't get confused. So 3x is positive because it has no sign. So if it has no sign, it is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. X times x is x squared. Okay? Cool, huh? All right, that's not too bad. So we did the first two terms. Now let's do the 3x times the minus 5x squared. Again, signs first. Positive times a negative, negative. 3 times 5, doing the numbers, 15. X times x squared is x cubed. Okay? Remember that x squared is x times x? And then here's another one, so it's x times x times x. So that's why we put x cubed. Again, I would look to see if these are like terms so that I could add or subtract them. But they're not. This has x squared, this has x cubed. We have to consider them different terms or unlike terms. So they can't be simplified more. We can't subtract them or add them together. Okay? Now, if this was like x squared, and then I could put them together. But because they have different exponents, I can't put them together any more than that. Okay, so there we go. Cool. Next one. Let's try another one. And I'll tell you what, how about this one? Instead of doing it together right off the bat, why don't you pause the video and try doing it yourself and see what you get. So this one's minus 2xy. Yes, I can put more than one letter there, more than one variable. It's okay. And then we have x squared. Remember, there's no number in front of it, so it means that it's a 1. Minus 3y squared. Okay? So why don't you go ahead and pause the video, see if you can simplify this expression. All right. So, how did it go? Did you get a good answer? Did you get the right answer? I don't know. Let's see what you got. Let's see what I get. So again, I guess looking at it from the most general standpoint, we have a number outside multiplied by another number that's inside the parentheses. Okay? However, we have a whole bunch of variables, and basically we have to use the distributive property. So it's going to be this expression times the x squared, and then this expression times the minus 3y squared. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, signs, numbers, variables. Just take it in that order. So the signs are a negative times a, that's a positive. No sign, it's a positive. It's a positive 1x. Okay, now, let's try it again. So minus times a positive, negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 1, remember that 1 is invisible, so 2 times 1 is 2. Now, I guess you could say xy times x squared, but I would just take it variable by variable. Try to get the variables that are the same first. So I would say, well, I have an x here and I have an x here, so 1x times x squared, that would be x times x times x, because this one has two x's multiplied by themselves. So this would be x cubed. Remember that in the video where I was talking about multiplying and dividing variables with exponents, when we multiply variables and they have exponents, we just add the exponents. So these ones over here that have like a 1, I mean, they would have like a 1, but they never put the 1, it's just the x. You would just add the 1 times the 2, and you get 3. Okay, now, this term has x times y, or 2 times x times y. And we know that they're multiplied because they're all put together, right? They're all right next to each other. And that means multiplication. So, I would just put the y. I just have to put the y down because the y doesn't have another y to multiply with, so it just gets put at the end, and we put it right next to the rest of it so that it is still multiplied. Okay? So that's that first term. Now we'll just do the next one, the next two I should say. I mean this one out here times the minus 3y squared. So we do the signs first. Minus times a minus, or a negative times a negative, is a positive. 2 times 3, doing the numbers. 2 times 3 is 6. And let's see here. I have an x times, there's no x over here, so I just got to bring down the x. I have a y times a y squared. That's going to be a y cubed. Okay? Again, these are different terms. They are not like terms, so I can't simplify them anymore. That's all there is to do with this one. Okay? So, I hope you got that. All right. Let's do a few more. Come on now. It's not difficult, but it does take a little bit of practice to get used to the different kinds of looks or the different kinds of examples that might be thrown at us. So let's put that one in black again. Let's minus 3x cubed times the quantity of minus x minus 2x squared minus 5. So this would be considered like a trinomial because there's 3 terms inside the parentheses. It's the same thing. We were doing examples with 2 terms inside the parentheses. It's the same thing, we just throw another arrow out to the third one. Okay, so what I mean is we'll be doing this. Multiply the one that's outside by every single one that's inside the parentheses. Okay? Maybe you guys want to pause the video and give it a shot. It's the same. It shouldn't be much different than the other ones that we did. So go ahead, give it a shot. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is the signs, right? And we're going to start off with the first 2 terms, the minus 3x cubed times minus x. So let's do the signs first. Minus times a minus, negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 1 is 3. X cubed times x, we just add the exponents, and it'd be x to the 4th power. Remember, a variable that doesn't have an exponent, it's kind of like it has a little 1 there, an imaginary 1. Okay? Invisible 1, I should say. Alright, so that's the first one. Now let's do this term times the next term, starting with the signs. Negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. X cubed times x squared, we just add the exponents when we're multiplying exponents. So it'd be x to the 5th. 3 and 2 is 5. Okay, and then, so that's that term. Now we do it again. First term times the minus 5. So starting with the signs, negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. And x cubed times nothing over here, no variables. I just bring down the x cubed. Okay. Again, these are all different terms. They're not like terms. Usually, because I made these up, they're not cool in the sense that they simplified it and they break down like that. Or there's another step here. But it's very common to see this in math books or problems that are more well thought out than mine, I guess. That after you do the distributive property, you'll have to group together like terms. For example, it would be like 3x cubed and 15x cubed. You could put those together and say you have 18x cubed or something like that. But again, these are all not like terms, so we just leave it like that. Okay? So I have another one. I have a couple more for you. This one's a little bit different though. Okay? My students kind of freak out when I give them examples like this. I guess I can understand why they'd freak out a little bit. They don't like to see big expressions like that. Okay. It looks really hard, doesn't it? It looks like, wow, this is this big, big thing, and I don't know what all these letters mean, and I've never seen letters, and then there's these little exponent thingies that I hardly ever seen before. Don't freak out. Remember, it's just three things that you're multiplying. And I think I've explained pretty well as far as how to do each one of these kinds of little steps in the previous videos at least. So let's get on with this one. Negative times a negative, positive. 4 times 2, 8. A squared times A. And remember, these ones, they don't have another one to multiply with. I mean, this term doesn't have a B or a C. So I'm really focused first of all on the A. After I do the A, I just bring down the B cubed and the C, okay? But anyway, so A squared times another A, that would be A cubed. And like I said before, these two don't have another, at least in the first term, they don't have a B to multiply with or a C to multiply with, so I just bring them down. Okay, nobody to multiply with, poor little guys, right? Feel bad. Alright, so we did this one. We did the first term times the first term here. Now this term that's outside, we're going to multiply by that last term inside the parentheses. So starting again with the signs. So minus times a minus, or negative times a negative, it's a positive. 4 times 3 is 12. And now I just go by, start multiplying my variables, right? So A squared times A, that would be A cubed. Remember, 2 of them here, 1 of them here, 3 of them all together. B cubed times B squared would be B to the 5th. Okay, so we have 3 of them here, 2 of them over there, 5 of them all together. Kind of like that. Kind of how to think about it. And there's a C that's multiplied. And that's all we can do. Okay? Just bring it down, because there was no C in that last term. If there was, then I would have said like C squared or C cubed, etc. But because there's no other C, I just bring them down. And that's it. Again, they're not like terms. They have different exponents, so I can't group them together. Okay? So I have a couple here for you to do. Just little simple ones. I think we did all the hard ones. But I'll give you 2 more, right? I'll give you 2 more just so that you can give it a shot. Pause the video. Okay, now this one I did get out of a book, so maybe it might have some simplifying after, or some grouping after you do the distributive property. But go ahead, pause video. Do it. Okay, so how did it go? Was there any grouping to do afterwards? Were there like terms after you did the distributive property? Well, let's see here. Okay, so as you can see, we have 2 multiplications going on here, right? We have 4 times this number inside the parentheses, and then we have a minus 3 times this number that's inside the parentheses. All that stuff, right? 3 times all that stuff, and then 4 times all this stuff, okay? But what we're going to do is distributive property. Okay, so starting with the signs first. 4 doesn't have a sign to its left. The 2x doesn't have a sign to its left, so that means that they're both positive. So a positive times a positive is a positive. 4 times 2 is 8. And there's just one letter, so I just put the x down. And that's it. There's the first one. Now, 4 times y is going to be, well, first of all, the signs. We've got to look at the signs. Positive times positive is a positive. Now remember that we didn't just bring that positive down. This positive is because we're multiplying 2 terms. And we're taking into account their sign before we multiply them. Okay, so positive times positive is positive. 4 times a 1, or a 1y, is 4. And we just bring down the y. Okay. Now for the next one, same thing. We're going to be multiplying the minus 3 times the x. Signs first. Minus times a positive. X is positive because it doesn't have a sign, so minus times positive is a minus. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down the x because there's no other variable multiplied with the variable x. And then we do the next one. So minus times a minus, or negative times a negative, is a positive. And 3 times 5 is 15. Now, like I said, and I did kind of anticipate that there would be simplifying to do afterwards, and there is. So we have a couple of like terms. We have these two. They are what we'd call like terms because they have the same x with no exponent. So, and this is just grouping together, and when they're different signs, we subtract them. So 8 minus 3 is 5. So we have 5x plus 4y plus 15. And that should have been your final answer. Okay? So that's that one. Cool? All right, I have one more. And then we'll call it a wrap. What do you think? Okay, it might be a little bit harder to see. I know I write kind of crooked. I tend to go upwards. I don't know why. I think people who study handwriting and stuff like that would probably say something about the fact that I tend to write at an angle. Anyway, so this one says, just so you can see it, because I know some of my exponents get kind of hard to see. It says minus 3a squared times b to the 5th power times c, open parentheses, minus 2a squared c squared minus 3ab plus 2b cubed. So this has 3 terms inside the parentheses. So there's going to be 3 arrows, okay? Maybe pause video, give it a shot. Yeah. I haven't done it, so I don't know what the answer is. I don't think that there's going to be any grouping to do after we do the multiplication. But anyway, let's give it a shot. Let's see what you got, and let's see what I get, and let's see if they match. Shall we? So, first term times the first term inside the parentheses. I start off with the signs. So negative times a negative is a positive. Next would be the numbers. 3 times 2 is 6. And finally, we'll do the letters, right? The variables. A squared times a squared would be a to the 4th. B to the 5th, this one doesn't have a b, so I just bring down my b to the 5th. C times c squared is c cubed. Okay, remember, when we're multiplying variables and they have exponents, we just add the exponents. All right, so, okay, we did the first two. Boom, got it. Next one, first term that's outside the parentheses times the second term that's inside the parentheses. I'm going to run out of space, huh? Okay. Negative times negative is a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. A squared times a is a cubed. B to the 5th times a b would be b to the 6th. And then my c doesn't have a partner to multiply with, so I just bring down the c. Okay, so I'm going to have to use the 2 boards. I didn't anticipate this. But it's okay, we can make it work. And then we'll do the last one here. Negative times a positive is a negative. Okay. 3 times 2 is 6. A squared times, okay, that one doesn't have an a, so I just bring down my a squared. B to the 5th times b to the 3rd, or b cubed, would be b to the 8th. B to the 8. Can we see all that? Yeah. And then c, and that one doesn't have a c to multiply with, so I just bring down my c. And like I was anticipating earlier, they're all different terms. They're not like terms. So that's as far as a simplifying can go. Okay? Okay, so that basically that's all I have for you today as far as distributive property is concerned. Remember to take it step by step. Do the signs, do the numbers, do the variables. When you're multiplying variables and they have exponents, add the exponents together. And also, when you're multiplying variables and there's no other variable in the next term that you're multiplying, just bring down the variable. That's all it is, okay? Don't make it harder than it is. It shouldn't be too complicated. So good luck and keep studying.